Today we're going to be solving quadratics by completing the square. So here are our set of steps. We're going to move the constant over to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus blank equals c plus blank. We're going to find the magic number. So we're going to talk about how we find that magic number here in a little bit. Then we're going to add the magic number to both sides. The next step would be to factor the left side and simplify the right side. Then we're going to solve by square roots, and as always, we're going to check our solutions. So in terms of this finding the magic number, if we look at the first example here, we just need to find the missing value to complete the square here. So ultimately what we want to happen is this number to make this be a perfect square trinomial. Remember, to make x squared minus 8x plus whatever number to be a perfect square trinomial, it's going to factor into something squared, some sort of binomial squared. So when you're finding the magic number, we're going to take b divided by 2, and then we're going to square it. That's how we're going to find the magic number. So if we're finding the missing value to complete x squared minus 8x plus blank, okay, so we're not solving anything yet, we're just practicing finding that magic number. We're going to take negative 8, that's our b value, it's always just with x. We're going to divide it by 2, and we're going to square it. So negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is a positive 16. So 16 is that missing value. So let's take a look at another one. If we have x squared plus 10x plus, and we're going to figure out what value goes in that blank. So we're going to take our b value, divide it by 2, and then we're going to square it. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So that means that our magic number is 25. So let's stop here for a second. Will your magic number ever be a negative number? So if you take a negative and you square it, or a positive and you square it, remember that means you're going to take that same number and multiply it by itself. That means that you will never have a negative magic number. That's why we say plus blank in this entire process, okay? So let's take a look at solving a couple of these. So we're going to solve by completing the square. And here we have x squared minus 8x minus 20 equals 0. So the first step is to get it into the proper form. That means that we need to keep x squared minus 8x. We have a plus blank here. Now, how do we move this value? All right, so since it was a negative 20, we would need to add 20 to both sides. So that means that we would have 20 plus blank. Okay, so that's in the proper form now. The next step is to find the magic number. So to find the magic number, I'm going to do my work over here. We take negative 8, we divide it by 2, and we square it. So it's this b value right there. So negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is a positive 16. So we're going to add 16 to both sides. That's our magic number. After we add that magic number to both sides, we're going to factor the left. So x squared minus 8x plus 16. On this question, we'll kind of do the long way, I guess we'll say. So here we add those, we get 36. So here we know that we need x and x. We know we need a subtraction signs for both of these, and we need two numbers that multiply to give us 16 and add to give us negative 8. That's going to be negative 4 and negative 4. So that means that we're going to have x minus 4 squared equals 36. It's completing the square, so you're making this side be a perfect square trinomial. Okay, now that we're here, we're going to solve this by square roots. So that means that we're going to take the square root of both sides. And when we take the square root of a square, those two things are going to go away, and we're left with x minus 4 equals. Now, the square root of 36, we could either get positive 6, or we could get a negative 6, because negative 6 squared gives us a positive 36. Positive 6 squared also gives us a positive 36. All right, so we need to get x by itself, which means we're going to, I won't write that yet. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. So that means we have x equals 4 plus or minus 6. Well, remember we should have two answers, so we have two different equations to solve. We have x equals 4 plus 6, and we have x equals 4 minus 6 because of that plus or minus sign in between them. So if we simplify those, we would get x equals 10 or x equals negative 2, okay? And so when you have those, we would take them back into the original equation and check them. So if we plug in 10, and you don't have to like write down anything for trying this, you can also just plug it into Desmos like we've talked about and check them that way. So 10 squared is 100. Negative 8 times 10 is negative 80. So we would have 100 minus 80 minus 20 does give us 0. Okay. We could check the same thing with negative 2. It is also going to work. So let's try one more here. We have x squared plus 2x equals 15. So for this question, we already have the x squared and the 2x separated out from the 15. So I'm going to add in those plus blanks. And you don't have to put those spaces in there, but I think it helps out a lot. All right, so now we need to find the magic number. So we're going to take our b value, which is 2, divided by 2. Well, that's going to give us 1. And 1 squared is 1. That means that we're going to add 1 to both sides of this. So we're going to combine like terms on the right, which is 16, and on the left-hand side, we're going to factor it. So remember, we need to get something squared. So here we need x, since it's plus plus, we know that there should be a plus sign there. We need two numbers that multiply to give us 1 and add to give us 2. So that would be 1 and 1. And since it would be x plus 1, we're going to write that as x plus 1 squared equals 16. Now that we're here, we're going to solve by square roots. So to get x by itself, the first thing we have to do is take the square root on both sides. That means we have x plus 1 equals, because the square root and the square go away, the square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. You cannot forget the plus or minus, or else you are not going to get enough answers. Okay, so we would subtract 1 from both sides to get x by itself. That's going to give us negative 1 plus or minus 4. So our two situations that we're in now, we have negative 1 plus 4, or we have negative 1 minus 4. Negative 1 plus 4 would give us 3. Negative 1 minus 4 would give us negative 5. And then we're going to check those. So let's check negative 5. Okay, negative 5 squared is positive 25. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. 25 minus 10 is 15. So that one works. Similarly, with 3, 3 squared is 9. 2 times 3 is 6. 9 plus 6 gives us 15. So both of our answers down here work. So again, with this process, you have to make sure you know these steps, okay? You have to be able to find what I'm calling the magic number. You do that by taking half of b and squaring it. That's going to make the left-hand side be a perfect square trinomial when you factor it. Then you're going to solve by square roots and check those solutions. That's it.